Welcome to Motorhead Garage, presented by Dustless Blasting. Over the last couple of episodes, you've gotten real familiar with our 1971 Chevy K5 Blazer here. We've done some audio upgrades with a radio and speakers. We've also done a windshield upgrade. We replaced the stock one, put a nice new clear unit in from Brothers Trucks. Now, one of the things that's cool about this truck is that it's the owner's pride and joy. It's a project that he's had for a while. And I'm joined with Steve from Brothers Trucks. And Steve, that's what we're talking about today, projects, how to pick the right one and how to kind of maybe find some warning signs when you're looking at a car or a truck.
Exactly. If you're looking at your first classic or maybe just your next classic, there are some things you want to look at. First of all, I think identifying what the ultimate goal is really important because you know, you don't want to overspend on something that you're going to tear all apart. And also, you know, don't look at something really shiny like this because it could be a wolf in sheep's clothing. We have flipped probably 100 cars in my household over the last few decades, and I've been screwed a few times because I wasn't careful. So ideally, you got to identify the long-term goal of the project before you go out and start shopping for your vehicle.
Let's pull a hood up in this thing. We'll start right under the engine bay. You know, as somebody that's going to look at a project and make a consideration on if it's a good buy, what am I going to look at body-wise structurally in here if I'm looking not only at one of these trucks but just in general?
The best way to get a good final result is to start with a good piece. So what I like to do under the hood is just kind of look at the fenders and the grille structure, radiator support, and you'll be able to tell if this thing's had a heavy front end collision, been repaired or something. You'll see that your radiator support's all wrinkled up, or you've got this structure in here inside the fender that'll be twisted. Maybe your grille support will be twisted, or your hood latch or something like that. And you can also identify this stuff by looking at the front of the hood too. And in this case, this truck is actually in really nice condition. I like to see, you know, your original stickers on here. I noticed there's an original Emission sticker on your side, and that stuff kind of lets you know that this hasn't been tampered with or redone in the past, because a lot of times that's where you get the wolf in sheep's clothing thing.
Right, and mechanically, if you're looking to buy something that you want to have as a, you know, as a chalk mark on the firewall restoration, you want to pay attention to things like, is this the stock motor in this vehicle? Now, in our case with this Blazer, we can look at that Emission sticker and see that this actually came with a 250 inline six and a one barrel.
Right.
So the small block Chevy's been swapped in.
That's
so
right.
If I'm looking to have something that's you know, perfect to the letter restoration job, maybe not the truck I want to buy. Let's look at the interior of the truck right now and some of the structure and pieces in there.
Okay, cool.
So when we move to the interior of the truck and any sort of car you're going to be looking at, there's a couple of big things. First off, if it's a project that you want to drive while you're working on it, test out the systems, actually drive the thing. If you get in it and the steering wheel has, you know, 35, 40 degrees of play in it, that's a bad thing. Take it around the block. If the brakes feel spongy and bad, that may be a warning sign. But Steve, there's a lot more going on here as well.
So, yeah. Like I said, you're looking down the road long term. If you're thinking of putting air in, maybe consider buying a vehicle that already had factory air. Even if you're going to convert it so it's going to be more modern style system, you know, it is nice to have your vents and your plumbing already in the dash. Also, this is a truck, and you know, a lot of trucks are more valuable when you modify them, but if you're looking at like an old car, a Roadrunner, a Chevelle, a Corvette, you might want to start talking and considering about those options those came with, because they're worth a lot more money with more options.
You also got to put your detective hat on a little bit here and get your hands dirty and do some digging.
Yeah, so this truck has great paint on it, but what we want to see is what's underneath that paint. Here we are again with the wolf in sheep's clothing thing. So it's all shiny, and what I usually would recommend to somebody is that they take the sill plates up, peel the carpet back, and see if there's any repairs here. Now, we got really lucky because this truck has a rubber floor mat, but you could see really clearly that this had some rust, and someone did a pretty sloppy job of fixing it by just riveting in a piece of sheet metal over probably what was the rusty part. And what that tells me is they more than likely didn't actually repair the rust, they just covered a hole. And I noticed that right away. This truck also has some pretty sloppy work that's similar in the kick panels. So
if you swing over this side, if you can swing over my way, because you have a real keen eye, especially for these era trucks, it's the business you guys are in. But one thing that jumped out at you that I thought was interesting, and this is something that, you know, people can study up, use the internet and all the photos, but I should be seeing a seam somewhere in here, and I'm not.
Right. So what I know about this is that that's a rocker panel replacement, and what they did is they probably did a hack job, and then they just bondoed in the seam, because normally the rocker panel would be a separate panel from your quarter panel, and you'd be able to see that.
Absolutely. One last telltale in this truck as far as some Bondo work comes on the inside of the door. There's a seam here, and the seam stops to exist when the Bondo actually fills up the area.
That's exactly right. So rust is a real problem. Just make sure you know what your ultimate goal is, and just try to think about what's going to cost you the most. This truck has a lot of nice chrome that's going to be reusable. It's got nice paint. We can drive it and go to car shows and stuff while we're working on it.
So Steve from Brothers Trucks, the guys flipped like 100 vehicles. Every hot rodder out there has the story of the car they bought that they thought was awesome and wasn't. Do your homework, do your due diligence, and do your detective work when you go and look at stuff, and you will not have a problem.